Hello, welcome back to More to the Story. I am your host, Janna Maron. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. In addition to this podcast, I also publish a literary arts magazine publishing creative nonfiction and visual art. It's called Under the Gum Tree. You can find out more about the magazine at underthegumtree.com. All the info for submitting to be considered for publication is there. All the info for subscribing and supporting us is there. We publish quarterly in digital and print, and we're growing. Like, surprisingly. I don't know. We've been around for almost 14 years, so I guess by now we should we should be pretty well known and growing. But it's been a labor of love all these years, and so we can always use the support of submissions and subscribers to keep going, to keep our print version going, because that's the most expensive thing of what we do. Printing is very expensive. So head on over there and check out Under the Gum Tree and subscribe or submit. I'm also a book coach and editor for women writing nonfiction, and you can learn all about my offerings and services in that realm at morethestory.co. And one more thing. Actually, two more things. Don't forget to check out my masterclass, morethestory.co/masterclass, how to write and finish your nonfiction book. That is the best place to start if you feel like you want to write a book, you don't know how, you don't know what to do. I go over the framework that I use when I work with clients, and it's the best place to get a little taste of what it would be like to work with me and go a little bit deeper on my philosophy and the vibe of how I approach the book writing process. It's $47. And as soon as you make a purchase, you have access immediately, and you can watch and rewatch as often as you want. And this episode is also brought to you by Cafe Santoro, my mom and dad's boutique, coffee shop, and roastery in Northern California. CafeSantoro.com/Janna. For your first purchase, you can get 10% off with that special link. And hey, writers always need coffee, right? So give ours some try. See what you think. I was talking in the last episode about creating a special link, a special discount just for the decaf, since that's my roast of choice, and I haven't done that yet. So maybe I'll do it for the next episode, and I will really just pimp out that decaf coffee. Okay, so today I want to talk about why I don't teach structure, which is maybe a little bit of a clickbaity headline, because I do teach structure, just maybe not in the way other editors and coaches teach structure. And this came up in a conversation from AWP because one of the women that I talked with for the one of the 15-minute book coaching sessions that I hosted there came and sat down and told me that she was just starting to write and work on what she thought was a memoir, and it's kind of like a big family saga, and her mom, her grandmother, lots of family memorabilia that she's just starting to sort through, including letters. And she thinks it's going to be kind of like identity and that kind of stuff. And she was starting to feel overwhelmed with all the different topics and themes and all the information, all the materials. She wants to do some interviews with her ancestors, her mom in particular, and her grandmother, but while her grandmother's still living. So she's telling me all of this, and she's just like, where do I start? Like, I feel like I need to know what the structure is in order to start organizing and thinking about what to prioritize. And maybe some people work better with structure or an outline. I know some writers do. And I do recommend an outline in some cases. It depends on the type of book. And it depends on how much material you're starting with. But in this case, I told this woman to just start writing and not worry about the structure, not worry about the order, not worry about the themes. And one of the other things that she had said was, she was feeling so overwhelmed by all the material. She was feeling like this could potentially be more than one book. And I said, it very well may be. But the only way you're going to figure that out is once you start generating material. Like in a situation like that, the analogy, metaphor, image that I like to use is that of a puzzle. Imagine you're going to put together a jigsaw puzzle. And you have the picture from the front of the box, but the box is empty. So you can't do anything because there's no pieces to arrange and organize and start to help the picture to start to appear as you arrange those pieces, right? So what I'm saying is to start writing without knowing what the structure or the outline is the opposite of that puzzle analogy, where instead of having the picture and no pieces, you have the pieces but no picture. And because you're starting from like almost nothing, you have to generate those pieces. You have to write, you have to create some material. You have to start getting these pieces situated that you can then start seeing, oh, here's a corner, here are the corners, oh, here are the edges. Okay, now I'm really starting to see a shape of this thing. And then you could maybe go in and think about what belongs, what doesn't belong, create a rough outline or a structure based on what you've kind of started generating. It's a little counterintuitive and it might feel like you're kind of walking in the dark a little bit, but it's a very intuitive process where you're learning, first and foremost, more about yourself as a writer. And you're learning to trust yourself. Like, this is one of the biggest things that I do with my clients, because they come to me and they want me to tell them all the answers. They want me to give them direction and give them a path. And I do. I mean, I do that work, but we do it in collaboration because I'm asking them questions to help them make those decisions on their own. And then I help them organize and make a plan. But I'm not just saying, oh yeah, here's your structure. Oh yeah, here's your outline. In very few cases am I doing that. I have done that with clients in the past. It's usually much more traditional, like straight nonfiction, how-to, self-help business type books, where that lends itself much more to like a very kind of straightforward linear outline structure. But when we're dealing with personal story, personal narrative, that linear narrative, that linear structure isn't always there. It isn't always immediately visible because you have to get into the material. You have to start generating. You have to learn how to trust yourself and listen to your own inner knowledge and wisdom for what this work needs. And then you're also, it turns into this very reciprocal relationship with the work itself, where not only are you trusting yourself, but you're trusting the work. So you're trusting that you and your own inner wisdom is going to know what the work needs. And then you're reciprocally trusting that the work is going to show you and tell you what it needs. Because you are creating this piece of art. You know, writing is an art form, right? It's not visual art. You don't put it up on the wall, but it's still an art form. So you're creating a piece of art that has its own energetic force. Like, as soon as you start to craft it and put it on the page, it has its own energetic force that you can interact with. I mean, it may be an inanimate thing because it's just words on a page, but there's an energy to it. And if you can tune into that energy, tune into your own energy, think about working those two energies together, it's a much more intuitive process than like, oh, boom, 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 boom. Here's the set, here's the structure, here's the outline. I'm just going to write to this outline from start to finish. Because I got to tell you, my experience is that writing does not operate that way. No, I can't think of any art form that operates that way, where you know the structure and the final form when you start. I mean, if anyone has had that experience, please share in the comments because I'd love to hear about it. That has not been my experience. That has not been the experience of the writers that I work with. Because a lot of times, I'm sure you've experienced this, what happens is it starts with this inkling of an idea and you don't even know what it is. It might not even be a book when the idea first comes to you. It's just this inkling that you want to write about. And so you start to explore. And as you explore, it expands. And all of a sudden, this expansion is opening up and you're like, oh, this is bigger than I thought it was. And now you have to contain it. But you don't have to contain it. You can just do your best to capture it and then start to organize it when the time is right for organizing. That's my approach. And it's an approach of, yes, being comfortable in uncertainty, but isn't that the best lesson and the best metaphor for life? I mean, if you want to be a writer or an artist and learn how to be the best you can be at your craft, isn't it an exercise in learning how to be comfortable in the discomfort of uncertainty? And how much does that then translate and into any and permeate any area of your entire life? That's like when I started practicing yoga for the first time, and teachers would always say, stay with the discomfort. Right? When you're going through the yoga poses, the flow, and maybe you don't have the strength for a certain pose, or you don't have the stamina to hold a pose as long as the teacher is instructing. I mean, one of the things I love about yoga is you're meant to listen to your body and rest and modify as you need. Another great lesson for any area of your life, even your creative life, especially your creative life, rest and modify as you need, because you don't have to attain to some you don't have to aspire to some unattainable, idealistic schedule or program or production that doesn't work for you, right? It's all about listening to yourself, listening to your own inner wisdom, your own inner guidance, and following that, and with like pretty much disregard for what everyone else around you is doing. I cannot always do that in a yoga class when there's people around, especially since my relapse of MS. It's been particularly challenging for me to do that because I have balance issues. I have fatigue. My hands flare up when I'm using them a lot. And in yoga, there are a lot of poses where your hands are down on the floor. And so I have ice packs with me on the mat to give my hands a rest and a break. And, I sometimes feel like I'm drawing a lot of attention to myself because I'm not able to just get in there and flow and practice in the same way that everyone else is. And so that is difficult for me, and has been difficult for me since my relapse. But all of that to say, when you're going into yoga poses, doing the flow, and there are poses you can't do or can't hold as long or whatever the case, or it's painful, like you're getting into a pose and it's painful, and the teacher will say, stay with the discomfort as long as you can. It's a very tangible, very physical way of experiencing a way to hold space for that discomfort and increase your tolerance for discomfort. That's really what you're trying to do, is even if it's micro increments over time, you increase incrementally, little by little, little by little, little by little in every practice. And over time, before you know it, guess what? Well, I'm doing full pigeon where both my butt cheeks are on the floor and I'm laying forward over one of my bent legs. When I first started practicing yoga, I would have to put a block under my thigh of the leg that was bent in front of me, if you know what the pigeon pose is. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, now that has been over more than 10 years of practicing yoga to get to that point with that particular pose. But everything in our life affects everything else, right? So if we are learning how to sit in the discomfort in a yoga class, learning how to sit in the discomfort in our writing practice, suddenly when this unbearable circumstance happens in our life, we can be much better prepared, maybe like a death of a loved one or the loss of a job or something like that. Suddenly we're much better prepared to sit in that discomfort because we've been practicing in other areas of our life. And boy, did this episode take a turn for the spiritual and philosophical when all I really meant to talk about was why I don't teach structure. But not having the structure for your book manuscript when you're trying to write it and generate material and figure out what it is an exercise in sitting in the discomfort of uncertainty and continuing to move forward. And isn't that what life is all about? Like everything in life is all about that. If you can figure that out, if you can do that and apply it to your writing life and apply it to like your relationships and your job and your parenting, whatever the case, wow. How much better off would we be? Excuse me while I have a sip of water. That was a complete stream of conscious tangent that I went on. I hope you found it beneficial. I hope you found it helpful. If you want to talk to me about your book structure, I do offer one-on-one sessions. So you don't have to be a member of the community. You don't have to have a subscription. You can just book a one-on-one session with me. We can talk about anything you want. Head on over to morethestory.co to find out about how to do that. And in the meantime, don't forget to check out the masterclass, $47, morethestory.co/masterclass. Don't forget to check out Cafe Santoro cafesantoro.com/Janna for 10% off your first purchase of whole bean coffee from a boutique Northern California coffee roastery, aka my mom and dad. Hi, mom and dad. What else? As I'm wrapping up, you can follow me on Instagram at Janna Marlise. You can follow Under the Gumtree on Instagram at Under Gumtree. The theme song was written and performed by Jeremy Maron. You can follow him on Instagram and Substack at Existential Wine Guy if you are into the wine life, the existential wine life, of course. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon on the next episode of More to the Story.